Welcome to the Inside Circle podcast, where your host, Eldra Jackson III, and his guests get personal about prison and transformation in all of its forms.
I keep reminding myself that I've got the key, and I'm the only one who can set me free.
This is Inside Circle, where your truth will set you free.
Hello, folks, and thank you for once again choosing to spend a little bit of your time with us here at the Inside Circle podcast. And today, our guest is Mr. William Harris. William is a longtime Inside Circle member, not just out here in the community, but on the inside, in the walls and the chapel of New Folsom. Thank you, William, for joining us here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Why don't we start with you telling folks a little bit about yourself, where you're at in the world today, and what you've got going on?
After I got released on April the 29th, I came to Oakland, and I'm at the Dream Center right now. And
Let me April 29th of what year?
April 29th of 2026 of this year.
Okay.
So I've been out approximately a little over 2 months. And in coming to Oakland, I'm from Sacramento, so I don't really know a lot of people in Oakland, but I wanted to create a fresh start for myself. I didn't want to go back to anything old, anything having to do with what happened and how I ended up in prison. So I wanted to give myself a new, fresh start where I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any, the temptations of doing different things would be less. So I came here to Oakland. I got fortunate. I got a job fairly quickly through my parole agent. So I've been working at CEO. Now I just recently got another job that I start on Monday that, pays a little bit more and it's a little bit more full time. So I've been, working. I go to school at Berkeley City College. I'm trying to earn my degree. So that's really basically what I've been doing so far. Just working and going to school.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. When you say, I didn't want to go back to, and I'm going to use this word because this is how I heard it in my head. I didn't want to go back to and be around people, places, and things that might trigger something, in me, or go into places that, where I came from. What's the reasoning behind that? Can you say more about that?
Absolutely. So in learning about myself and learning about, what my triggers are and what temptations are and how they might affect me, as I go forward in my lifetime. If I went back to Sacramento, which I'm not saying I'm never going to go back, because I will. I'll go back and I'll visit and I'll, because I still have family and I still have things there that I might be able to do. But as far as living there, putting myself in a situation where I know I'm going to see somebody I knew before, I'm going to see somebody that may, spark some sort of temptation in me to go back to this neighborhood or that neighborhood or start, drinking on the corner again or any types of things that I had done before, which were some of the catalysts that led me to prison. I wanted to give myself space and time before I confronted those things again. So in moving to Oakland, I know nobody here. I don't have a foothold in Oakland. So everything is fresh and new. So the only thing that I have are the goals and the plans that I've set out for myself to try and achieve. And I don't have the distractions that Sacramento would have given me. So without those distractions, it made it easier for me to get a foothold on the plans that I made for myself and the things that I was trying to achieve.
So a question, that I'll ask, I suppose, is how did you get to a place where you were able to recognize that within yourself, to recognize, number one, that there are triggers, and recognize that, number two, it might be wise for me to not go around, people and places at this point in my transition, that might bring something up for me.
Well, it took a lot of personal reflection and personal work. It took a lot of I've been a part of the Inside Circle Foundation since the year 2000. If not, no, actually, I'm sorry, 1999. I've been a part of men's support group, which then, evolved into the Inside Circle. So with being a part of that, it was a very, very slow process for me to really, really, really effect change in my life. It took a while. So, with that and understanding who I am and how I got to the point where I ended up in prison, and understanding that, I also understood that since this is so fairly, you know, it took 24 years for me to get to prison. You know what I mean? I've only been really, 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 changed. I've only been a real changed person for less than 5, less than 10 actually, you know. So I needed to give myself a buffer zone. I needed to give myself some space to 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 come into the person that I'm trying to be, to come into the person that I know that I am. So I needed to give myself some space because things aren't easy out. Things get hard. I have to take care of myself now. I have to feed myself. I have to clothe myself. I have to do, I have to, pay for my own housing. I have to do these things on my own and earn this stuff on my own, which in prison you don't have to do. All that stuff is provided for you. So when you come up with when things happen like the fire that happened a couple of months ago when and the Dream Center burned up, I didn't know where I was going to be able to live. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how much stuff I had to replace. I knew nothing. When those things come up, it's easy to revert back to things I know. But since I'm not reverting back to that, I'm not reverting back to selling drugs or robbing or doing any of the things that I used to do. I have to be in a position where that's not something where somebody's like, well, we can go do this or we can go do that. Because like I said, I don't know anybody here. So there's nobody so I had to figure it out on my own, which made it easier for me to decide, hey, this is the direction I'm going in. This is a bump in the road. It happens. Let's continue in this direction.
Yeah, yeah. Something you said in there sparked 2 questions for me. And so the first question is, who were you before? You said it took you 24 years to earn your way into a prison sentence. Who was that person?
Oh, before I was a person I call it a man without an identity. So I was a person that didn't really particularly like who I was. I didn't like the fact that I wasn't, aggressive. I didn't like the fact that I was shy and that it took me a while to get to know people and not be, you know, very outgoing immediately. I didn't like the fact that I was shy around women. I didn't like there's a lot of things I didn't like about myself. And so I used, drinking and drugs and all these different types of things. I used that to mask what I didn't like to become a person that I thought that I wanted to be. So in becoming that person and trying to gain acceptance from a group of people, the easiest group of people that I found to gain acceptance from were people who were involved in criminality, gang members, those types of things. They accept anybody, you know? So I felt accepted there. And then I felt that that was my identity. I had to build that identity, which went completely against how I was raised, but that's the identity I felt I had to build. So in building that identity, that, that all that was the catalyst, or it helped me end up in prison for 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. When you speak about, those things going against how you were raised, and when you speak about not, liking certain aspects of yourself, where does that come from? And I'm asking because there will be people who are listening to this who may identify with that, and they may not, have taken the time to look at themselves and reflect and figure out where, those parts, crop up for themselves. Where'd that come from for you? Where did you begin to get the messages, or where did you begin to create the belief system around, not liking certain things about yourself?
Well, it began when I was young. When I was very, very young. My family moved around a lot. We didn't really stay in one space a lot, so we moved around, and I always had new friends. And so, you know, being a black man back in the '80s, moving around a lot, and we lived in suburban neighborhoods, so there wasn't a lot of black people there. So, when the identity crisis that I spoke about before, it started then because I didn't have a lot of blacks around me. I went to Catholic schools, and it was a lot, of people, whites and Hispanics and those types of people went to Catholic school. But I didn't learn a lot about myself, about who I was, my history, where I came from. I didn't learn a lot about that. So now I'm faced with being unsure of me because I didn't learn a lot about where I came from and who I was. So I'm unsure of me, and then I'm not as comfortable around the people who were my friends because they all lived their certain life. They all understood certain things about themselves, and I didn't understand anything about myself. So it was hard for me to identify who and what I wanted to be as I was growing up, who I was. It was very, very difficult to identify that. So I felt very uncomfortable around the friends that I had, as well as uncomfortable around other blacks because I wasn't around other blacks a lot. I was around mostly whites. So it caused me to be very unsure of myself. It caused me to be very, very unsure of where my place was in this world. And instead of talking to my family about it, which I should have done, instead of talking to my family about it, I chose to go other routes, do other things to deal with that.
Yeah. And when you say you chose other routes, what were some of those routes, and what was the end result?
I chose to drink. That was one of the routes I chose to be able to deal with that. I drank because the first time I drank some alcohol, I was 15 years old. I drank and I felt I could do no wrong. Alcohol is called courage juice for a reason. It gave me a sense of, hey, I can do anything. I can say anything, and consequences be damned. There is no consequence. So, and that is the type of person that I thought that I wanted to be. I thought I wanted to be that individual. So I continued to drink. I continued to mask, the hurt, the pain, the different things that I was feeling. I continued to mask that with drinking because now I can say anything I want to say. I can do anything I want to do, and it didn't seem to have a consequence up until it did have a consequence. So, but that it allowed me not to have to deal with or dig into the hurt that I was feeling, the confusion, the identity crisis, the things that I just did not want to talk about.
Yeah. So, number one, thank you for sharing that. I think that, your being willing to speak about that is something that a lot of people may be able to identify with, and hopefully, it can help somebody begin to launch off into finding what works for them. A question that I, have as a follow up is, okay, so now you find yourself incarcerated. What's that like for you?
that was that was the I mean, one, I was scared to death. I mean, I just, I was petrified. So in going into incarceration, I'm not the biggest, I'm not the baddest, I'm not the strongest, I'm not any of those things. Plus, I didn't really grow up in the areas that most of these dudes that where I was incarcerated with grew up in. I didn't grow up in the chaos and the fighting and the shooting and all these different types of things that most of the guys that I was incarcerated with grew up in. So I didn't really have a sense of how to act there. So I just said, okay, look, well, I'm not going to be anybody's victim. I'm not going to get taken advantage of. So whenever it is, it's time to fight or whatever it is I got to do, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to volunteer and do anything. I remember the one of the first, when I got to the main line, the first celly I had, he told me, he said, man, when you go to the yard, because we were on lockdown, because I got to New Folsom, Folsom was on lockdown for a riot that had happened a week before I got there. So I get there, and so I go to C yard, even though I asked the lieutenant, I said, man, send me to B. Can you send me to B because they're not on lockdown? He said, I'm going to send you where the hell I want to send you. Then he sent me over to C that was on lockdown. So I got there, and one of the first cellies I had, he said, man, when the yard opens up, don't tell anybody you're from SAC. Don't go out there and say you're from SAC. What you do is you don't really belong here. I don't know how you got here, but you don't really belong here. You don't sound like somebody, you don't belong here. So what you do is you take your butt to the library. He said it much more, with much more conviction than I'm saying it right now. He said, you take your butt to the law library and you get yourself out of prison. That's where you belong. I did the exact opposite. Out of fear and still wanting to chase that identity, I did the exact opposite. I came out and I'm from Sacramento, we're all the Sacramento cats. And, then I, get into the gang banging and the STGs and all these different types of things. And I ingratiated myself in that, thinking that this is what I had to do. Still carrying that same lack of identity, still carrying that same lack of self-esteem, that same, where do I belong? Still carrying that, just in prison now.
Yeah. What that cost you?
That cost me a lot. I could have been home in 2020. I could have been home much, much sooner. So, it cost me 15 years on level 4. It cost me shoe programs and all these different types of things. It cost me years of my life that I could have been using figuring things out, that I could have been using trying to be the person that I was raised to be, trying to be the man that I was, that I could have been, that everybody saw but me. I remember Eugene Irvin. I remember him. And I remember when I was in a warrior round with him. Now, I'm not going to go through all the details, but he told me afterwards, he said, just be you. Just be who you are and you will be fine. Stop trying to be somebody different than who you are. And that was an interesting thing because at the time, I had done something to him that he would normally have reacted very violently toward. But since we were so close, he was like, man, I can't do that to you. This is what you could do for me. And I thought about that. And in thinking about that, I wondered, and this was in 2010. And thinking about that, I wondered, well, who the hell am I? Who is that person he's seeing, that he's saying that I should be? I have no idea who that person is. So that was one of the catalysts. That was something that helped me start my journey to becoming who I am, to finding out who that person was.
Yeah.
That was a long journey.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you get involved with Inside Circle?
So Patrick Nolan was starting a group on C Yard. He had started one on B already, but then they moved him to C. So he was starting a group on C Yard, and they were getting a whole bunch of people whom they believed would fit this group. So my celly at the time, his name was Sigmund Harris. Everybody called him Mick. He told Joe Hunt and Pat, he said, man, my celly's gonna be a part of that, man. He gonna go. Now he told him that because I didn't have a job at the time, and I was always in the cell, and he wanted some cell time. So he told him, yeah, he's gonna go to that group. But that's how I got started. That's how, and they put me on the list. And that's how I got started going to the Inside Circle. And I've never stopped since then. when I left and there was no circle, I couldn't go to that. But as long as there was a circle somewhere, I was going.
Yeah. Yeah. And what did that mean to you inside? What did being in circle mean to you inside?
Well, it was something that I see in Planet. I read that in Planet Fitness every day, and that was one of the things that helped me change. Was it was a judgment-free zone. People accepted in the circle. They accepted who you were, who you truly were. They accepted who I truly was, as I truly was, and they made a decision whether or not to be my brother or not based upon that. It had nothing to do with the facade. It had nothing to do with, the mask that I wore, because in that circle, those masks are supposed to come down, and you're supposed to be authentic and authentically you, so people can see, so I could see who I really was. And that support that people gave based upon who I actually was, that support helped me become who I am. It helped me figure out who William Harris actually is, who that person that was raised, who is that person? What are his values? What is he like? What are the things that, how much integrity did I have, and all the different things that I didn't know anything about. So, and so that's what that's how valuable the circle is to me. And that's how, I'm just from that day, from that Tuesday in the chapel, in the little multi-purpose room that we were in, from that Tuesday to what the Inside Circle is now, because that Tuesday was just the men's support group. It wasn't the Inside Circle Foundation. It was just the men's sports group. Now, from what it is today, it's like, and for me being a part of it, I feel proud. I feel overjoyed. I feel like really, like I just really, I don't know. I just feel I just feel a lot of pride with that.
Having only been out a few months, what are you finding is the toughest part of your transition?
Being patient and not wanting to rush things, because I've been down so long. I want to rush everything. I want everything to come right away, because I feel like I have to make up time, because I've wasted so much of it. I have to make it all up. So patience is one thing that's really, really hard for me. Also, getting rid of some of the prison stigma, some of the prison mentality. I was on a bus, and on the bus, it was really, really, I was in Frisco, and it was really packed. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious, I can't, somebody is standing behind me. This ain't cool. In prison, you don't let nobody stand behind you. But I'm also standing behind somebody. That's also not cool. And I just felt like, oh my God, something's gonna burst here. But I took some deep breaths and realized that this is normal. The people that are here, they're not thinking on a prison level. They're thinking, hey, this is the bus we got to take to get where we got to go. We're just going to deal with how packed it is, because this is noise usually packed like this. So I had to really, really, really understand that these different things that are happening, that are going on, that's society. That's what people usually do. That's how people usually act. This is normal. What's abnormal in a prison setting is normal on the outside. So adjusting to that normality, it's been a challenge. It's definitely been a challenge.
Yeah. Don't feel bad about that. I still don't like crowds.
I was like, man, I need to hurry up and get the hell up off this bus. But I waited. Yeah. I made myself not, because I could have got off the bus and just walked, but I made myself stay on there and endure that uncomfortableness, because it's something that, it's one of the coping skills that I've adopted. Hey, be comfortable with the uncomfortable. you know, even if, however it is you feel, however triggered you are, just take some deep breaths and be comfortable with it, especially if it's something that is normal, something that that people do every day that I may not be used to. But it's
Yeah.
time for me to start getting used to that. It's time for me to start getting, getting my footing, my solid footing into freedom.
Yeah. How's that feel? Getting a solid footing in freedom.
It feels scary as hell,
Yeah.
but exhilarating and exciting all in the same breath.
Yeah.
Here's the funny thing, you know, I paid my first bill in a long time. I paid a phone bill. I first got out, Bonafide got me a phone, and they only pay for the 1 month. So the next month I got to pay for it. I paid that for the first, I paid a bill. I said, man, I can pay this bill. And it felt terrific. It really
Yeah.
did. I don't know how, but I felt like, okay, I can pay for my own Clipper card. You know what I mean? So, and when I first got out, they were providing them for me because I didn't have a job. Now that I have a job and I'm getting the steps, I can pay for my own Clipper card, even though they will still provide me one. I can still get provided one. But no, I have a job now. It's my responsibility to, like everybody else in the world, it's my responsibility to pay and find a way to get from A to B.
Yeah.
My responsibility. It's not, I don't get to look to other people to help me do that. Now, since it's my responsibility, I have to be able to figure that out. And those are the things that I'm loving the most, figuring those things out. Now when the resources are there and when I need them, like really need them, yes, I will take advantage of them because it's really it's something needed so I can graduate to the next level. But if I can buy my own Zipper card, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like the people to know that we haven't touched on?
I would like people to know that the one thing you don't get a chance to see, and especially in prison, because you're in a very, very closed space. And if you look at this news, all they do is sensationalize violence and the wrongdoing. But the one thing you don't get a chance to see is all the good. There are a lot of good people out here. A lot of good people that want to see the best in other people. And you know, I it helps me bring the best out of me, and so I just wanted people to know that society, I have not given up on society, on the best in people. I just really, really enjoy seeing the best that people have to offer, and I've seen a lot of that. Oakland gets a bad rap for a lot of violence and a lot of this and that. I haven't seen any of it. I haven't seen any of it. There was a car accident the other. The bus hit a car. The bus that I was on, it hit a car door, and it was a young man's car door, and he was very upset that the bus hit his door. Going over there, and the lady told the bus driver, she said, "Man, open the window." Now, my first thought is, "Oh my God, this is going to get ugly. This dude is young. There's about 6, 7, 8 other youngsters here. This is going to get ugly." And we're in West Oakland. We're in the ghetto. Oh Lord, this is going to get it. It didn't get ugly. The bus driver apologized for hitting his car. He said what he had to say, and he was good. They waited for the officer to get there to take the report, and the report was taken, and everything was, handled how it was handled. But that's the part you don't get to see.
Yeah.
You don't get to see that. And in my thinking, oh my God, this is going to get bad, and it didn't. So that's just what that's the new person that I become. That's the new individual. That's the man that I want people to know that I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you to do one thing. I'm going to ask you to get comfortable on your chair.
Okay.
Feel your feet on the ground beneath you.
Absolutely.
Close your eyes. Take a deep breath and feel 30 years of prison slide off of you, and go back and see yourself when you were 18 years old. See yourself when you were 15 years old. See 10-year-old William, and slide back in the time where you can see your 6-year-old self. And knowing what you know now, having experienced everything that you've experienced now, what piece of wisdom would you give to that 6-year-old child?
I would tell that child to love yourself. You are perfect just as you are, faults and all. Just love every part of yourself and continue, especially the 6-year-old self, continue doing the thing that you're doing. Continue being good in school and continue running around outside, playing football and sports and those types of things that I was doing when I was 6. Continue that. Just understand that that's the path for you. That's what you're supposed to be doing.
Love every part of yourself.
Yes, even the bad parts.
It's a magical piece there. It's a magical piece. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
It's been an honor and a pleasure to be with you today.
Hey, thank you very much. With you as well, always.
Thank you, folks, for listening to another episode of the Inside Circle podcast. And if you like what you've heard here, and if you believe in the work that it is that we're doing in this world, this podcast is just a small sample of some of the work that we're doing in the world, trying to get out and create spaces where folks can find their own personal freedom. And it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost spiritually, it comes at a cost mentally, it comes at a cost emotionally, and the easy cost is financially. So if you've listened to us, over the last couple of years, and you've heard some things that have touched your heart, become a member, support Inside Circle. And it's very easy to become a member and support by becoming a recurring donor. So come on, jump on, become a part of the Inside Circle family, and become a recurring donor. It doesn't take a whole lot, but every little bit counts. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us at the Inside Circle podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a comment on iTunes or wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram at inside_circle and on Facebook at Inside Circle Org, all one word. Special thanks to the songwriter Rob Ricardo for his song, The Work. Join our mailing list and learn more about Inside Circle on our website at insidecircle.org. And remember, your truth will set you free.